Okay, so let's talk about the ego today and how so much chat is about the ego and it's just my ego's running the show and my ego is bad and I just want to destroy and get rid of my ego. Like that's all just you can't. It's just like a part of yourself that you think that you need to cut out and change because this is if I wasn't like this then I would be so much better, or if this part of my body was different I would love my body. Like just no, like just stop. Like it's a part of you for a reason, and it is a part of you for you to accept and to love and to give space and to recognize. And that's what the ego is. It's that kind of maybe more uglier side, or can be an uglier side, about of our different construct of our system, of our consciousness, of that little kind of being that we just want to blame everything on, of like, oh, this is just an issue. But no, we can keep our ego into check. We can pull the ego in. We could be like, no, my soul's going to run the show. My ego's not going to run the show, but my ego does play a role. And it's about having this healthy connection with the different parts of ourselves. So it's not saying that anything is good or bad. This is what's going to keep you in polarity of any kind of situation or mindset that you're in. And as we kind of remove ourselves of this more oneness, of this higher consciousness, of this elevated thinking, of connection and oneness, and learning and forgiveness, and as we start to move into that new kind of broader consciousness, that higher consciousness, we get to see how everything plays a role, everything has a place. Nothing is good or bad, it just is. And how can we move through it and use it to not to, I guess, use it in a way where it is helping us within our soul mission, within our processing, within living the experience that we're living. And so that's what we can work with our ego to be like, okay, no, you're not something bad, but you are something that might be in my way of seeing things from a higher level. So observing how your ego is coming into play, maybe that is through feeling like you have to be in competition with other people, feeling like you have to win, or there's not enough, or you have to get it, or somebody else will, or just thinking, in those kinds of frames of mind, instead of thinking, zooming out and being like, actually, that might just be my ego, talking. There's plenty for everybody. When somebody else wins, I win too, because we're all connected. We're all one. When somebody else is hurting, I hurt too. So it's kind of this interconnectedness that we get to kind of mush together with our ego, and see how maybe our ego sometimes puts walls up, doesn't want things to be different, has issues with anything that it doesn't understand or can't comprehend, or things that it knows it's right, or things like that. So what we want to do is kind of break those walls down of the ego, and maybe like just have the fence instead of the wall, where things can kind of come and go a little bit more easily, rather than just this black and white, this is how it is, but allowing yourself to be in that gray, to allow things to be like, oh, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. Let's think about the very opposite thing that I'm thinking right now, and maybe that's also true. So that's where we can do some of this kind of shadow work within the ego, of really realizing why we are making certain decisions, why are we having certain opinions or thoughts about different people, or doing certain things, or maybe judging yourself of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that, or you are not good enough for that, or what do you mean your soul mission or your energy work? You're not going to be able to do that. And that's kind of the ego keeping you safe. So as you begin to question yourself of those thoughts, you're kind of stepping away a little bit. You're taking a break on thinking what you're thinking, but like in the observing what you're thinking, you get to observe the ego, how it's just can squirm when it gets nervous, or can, say something not nice when it's triggered. How can you take a step back within your brain and be more observing of that situation, observing of yourself or that person, and see how you can just let it be rather than react. And that's when we can kind of observe the ego and not have it overtake or control what's going on, but be like, okay, this part of myself is saying this. This part of myself, maybe my soul or my spirit, or maybe my higher self, maybe my guides are coming through. How can I just, especially if it's a situation that you're really going through right now, or trying to process or change, or an aspect of yourself that you're trying to change, like how can you perceive this one maybe problem or situation that you're focused on? This is the pinpoint, situation or problem. How can you then look at it from all perspectives, from your ego, from your soul, from the higher self, from the guides, from an ascended master, as yourself at a higher zoomed out, from yourself 10 years later, from yourself 20 years later? How is this situation or this problem necessary? Or like how big is it actually? Keep zooming out, look at it from different angles. Like how can you react differently next time? Or what did you learn from it? Or how is this going to catapult you into another direction? Maybe this is actually here for a reason. Maybe this is here to jolt your path and wake you up and be like, no, this is not your path. Or maybe, yes, this is your path. So it's like, how can you perceive this situation that maybe your ego is saying is bad or wrong or good? And how can you perceive it from all aspects? That's how we can start to just use our ego as more of a tool, of a perspective, of a different outlook, like almost like a friend. You're just like a soundboard, like, okay, this is what the ego thinks. Okay, this is what the soul thinks. Okay. So it's just kind of like allowing it to just be, and not always choosing that it is right or choosing that it's wrong. It's just, it just is. So it's working with it, pulling that ego in close instead of trying to sever and separate it. Just like our shadow sides, where things that we perceive as bad or wrong or dark really isn't. It just is. We can just draw that in and also have our light, and it's just a part of this dynamic within this experience of our consciousness. So we're just going to do some work on the ego of just allowing space within that. So you can just receive these light codes however you feel. You don't need to be sitting down or doing anything. It's actually just quite quick. So we're just going to get into it. Utishita kaputushiti kaputushita katramuntushite sikatashito guate kitira stitera kotara shai ata kotari shite kitira sikitira te kitra itrisitri quatri itra shitira wato quatra sai hashitra atru kotara shitru kotari butu kotra sita karatira shuto etra itra katra sikata itru to quatri shitrai wishitra koturi sikitra shukotra shikatira dro katra diriko sutu kodra itra sikitra karwitru wish the kitru chukotara put kotru shitira wushitra sikatra itru. Okay. Let me know in the comments how that felt. You can also revisit this video whenever you're in a situation where you feel like you need to just change your perspective, or you just want another take and maybe you don't have a soundboard or a friend to be like, how can I look at this differently? What is a different way that I can find a solution in this? And this is going to kind of help it break up and give that other perspective energetically, that kind of imprint where you might have an idea or of a different thought of the way of thinking about that situation. So ego work is good. Shadow work is good. It's also not good. It just is. It's necessary. It's necessary to be able to integrate all aspects of ourselves that we perceive as separate. So that is the biggest thing that the ego, I believe, teaches us. So I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next video.